Streamlabs, what are you up to? You should be showing that. There we go. Hey. Hey, it's working. Hey, it's working. Sort of working. I believe it's working. There we go. It is alive. It is alive. Finally. Streaming is hard. Anyone who streams for a living deserves more money. Like teachers. Yeah, I am a ghost. I am Ghost Eric until until my green screen shows up, which is apparently on the way from somewhere in Ohio. It's actually probably driving right past Drew's house right now. I know. It's sad. So Ghost Eric is gonna be doing some live coding today, I guess. Ghost Eric is gonna have fun with that. Let me just. Apparently, this is also on YouTube, which I have no idea how that works. So let's try that again. Let's see. I tweeted something, right? Again. Yeah. There we go. There it is. No, that's 27 minutes old. What the hell is a new one? The internet sucks. It's all broken. There we go. No, that's still the old one. Ah, screw it. Screw it. It was never any good anyway. All right. Yes. Brent's making fun of me for being pale. It's cute. It's cute. It's real cute. You see me on YouTube. I know, but I have no idea if the tweet went out about going to YouTube. I don't know. It's all weird. It's all weird. So let's see here. What would be a fun one to work on? So I think this issue is actually a little bit more interesting. So this happened actually when I was working. I was working with myself technically. I was working with myself, but I was on someone else's server trying to do some stuff. And I had an Active Directory account. Hello, Sammy. Hello, Josh. Very nice to see you. I'm not asking for money, so don't worry. You don't have to turn your pockets out at me. But I was working on a server, and I realized that I was part of either like a managed service account or group managed service account or something. And my Active Directory credentials were not actually on the server, but like whatever account I was like tunneling in as was on the server. And this was actually something that I called when I wrote this check, and this is like a stupid check that I wrote, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna see what happens. And so I wrote this kind of stupid check for usernames. I gotta scroll down a little bit to find it. And at the time that I wrote it, I called the fact that I would one day regret it. Where are we going here? Yes, here we go. I will probably regret this check someday. And I did. I regretted it just the other day. And so what the check does is it looks to see if the username parameter that someone passed in exists in server principals, which, if you have stuff in there, right? You can have this list of things. You can see my OStress account. You can see all the silly things that SQL Server sets up for things I will never do or use. But for some reason, like my particular Active Directory account wasn't in there. And so I got an error when I tried to monitor what my own account was doing, which is very sad because I really wanted to look at what the query that I was running was doing. And that was disappointing to not be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is something completely unorthodox. I am going to delete this entire thing. And the reason I'm going to delete this entire thing is because what I really want to have, what I really wrote that check in as an additional precaution against was part of my paranoia about writing a store procedure that that has a lot of dynamic SQL in it and certainly takes unsanitary inputs. Probably the least sanitary inputs you can possibly imagine is that we might get SQL injected. And so I try to sidestep that a little bit. So like if any of these parameters that get passed in have a value in either like a non-blank value or for like schemas like a value that I'm just not expecting. Right, so like these ones, like DBO is fine. I'm not going to check DBO for SQL injection. But if anyone, if any of these have like a non-blank parameter passed in, one thing that I do way up here, which is if any of these are null, I just set them to blank strings because I don't want to deal with like a bunch of figuring out if something's null or a blank string. That's annoying. And none of this matters for performance reasons. Like if I saw someone doing this in a store procedure where they were like, performance sucks, I don't know why, I'd be like, well, I can tell you. we can talk about this together. But for this, for what I'm doing, there is no performance impact here. And I actually got a website comment on the website, like one of like 4, I think, on my website was about how people will often look to scripts that I write or scripts that are in the first responder kit or something else like that. It's like how people like rules people should abide by when they're writing store procedures. And it's like, on the one hand, it's like I'm very touched that that's something that people like people look up to things that I write with like that level of confidence. But on the other hand, these aren't store procedures that I'm writing that query data, like user data, in a way that has to be fast or like work well. This is like junk DMV queries where like almost nothing matters. Like there's like very little performance like tuning you can do on these things. And trust me, I know this because I've tried to performance tune query store queries, and it is a dismal dead end experience. So part of what I'm trying to avoid with part of what I was trying to like enforce avoidance of was SQL injection stuff. Another thing is that if someone puts a typo in a username, they don't get results back. I didn't want to oh, I have to go rerun it. Like just say it was me on there, and I was running something, and I was just like, hey friend, run this store procedure to look at why my code is slow. And they were like, cool, got it. And I was just like, yeah, but just focus on my username. I don't know what spit it's going to come out as, but I know my username is going to be in there. Invariably, even if it was my mother, she would spell Eric with a C. That would get messed up. And I don't want someone to be like, oh, wait, I did it wrong. We have to wait another 40 seconds to do something because I used a bonky username. So by having that check for assist.server principles in there, I was hoping to avoid situations like that. But since that apparently has all sorts of weird caveats and odd things about, odd things going on with that, I decided to just try to do that. But anyway, so looking over here, the section that checks for any SQL injection-y stuff already has the username in there. What sort of odd things? I don't know. I forget what I was talking about. You have to remind me. What sort of odd things? I don't know. Things I find in my underwear at the end of a day. Strange things happen. So what this does is looks for if any of those are non-null values or non-empty strings rather. I'll just check to see if there's any like commands that I know about in there, right? Like things that I wouldn't want to be in those strings. So like select, insert, update, dbcc, backup, restore, alter, create. And granted, there might be some overlap. I can imagine that someone might have like a user account that might have like a partial of one of these strings in them, but screw it. Like someone might have, I don't know, whatever, like db creator, I don't know. So I can imagine there being some overlap, but whatever. We're just going to have to live with this because I want to look smart. I'm kidding. I don't know. But just imagine you were looking at like backup exec or something, right? Or you'd have 2 of those. You would actually get a double whammy on backup exec. But we already have an upper over here, so this isn't what I'm worried about. But, the username thing, I was trying to be nice, and granted I could probably figure out if, there's a backslash in the string to not check that, but, I will have to just trust that people can type in a username correctly. And with that, we will save SP thunderous _ human events, and we will say goodbye to these lines of code. I'm going to say adios. Right, and so we will say create user captain backup. Yeah, see? If anyone ever names a user captain backup, they are out of here. Gone. Scram. No more of you. All right, so what was I doing? Oh, yeah, I was going to do this. Get rid of regretful I spelled that wrong. Regretful check. And we will say deleted check in server principals because it breaks on some AD accounts. And we will say that this closes number, where are you? There we go. Bam, number 45. 45 is closed out. Commit that to dev. Push the origin. We are feeling good. Feeling pretty good. All right. So what should we do next? Let's look at our list of issues again. Let's go back to issue Rana. All right. This is going to be a tough one. So this is going to be one that I apparently a marching band just got hit by a car or something. This is going to be a tough one. So one of the things that I have in here is if you want to pass in a list of custom weight stats, right? So if you control an F over weight type and you scroll on down a little bit, I forget exactly where this is, but one thing that I'll do is allow you to pass in a list of custom weights. And if you have custom weights in here, then I will allow you to just filter on that list of custom weights. But that can get pretty annoying, because if you look at the list of weights that are sort of interesting in here, if we scroll, where the hell did I put that thing? Nope, past you. Wait, is it down here? No, I don't think it's that far down. Oh, it is. So if you have a list of custom weights that you want to use, you can do that. The problem really is, though, is that there are a lot of different types of weights, right? Like, there's a long list of LCK weights. If we, there's a lot of different type of page latches and page IO latches. Granted, they're like almost no one's going to be looking at page latch beyond like UP and EX and SH. Like the rest of them are just, no one's ever going to actually look for those. But who knows? Like, just want to make sure there are people like Joe Obish in the world who care desperately about all sorts of strange different kinds of latches. And, I want to make sure that their experience is covered here. But there's also a whole bunch of page IO latch weights. Granted, I can't see a whole lot of people looking at things outside of Shupex, but, whatever. So what I want to be able to do is have people say, like, LCK %sign and just get all of the lock weights, or say, like, page latch %sign and get all the page latch weights, or have people say, memory and get all of the resource semaphore weights. But there's a lot of different permutations that could happen there, right? There's a whole bunch of different stuff that could happen with that, right? A lot of different stuff. People could say resource, people could say memory, people could say page, people could say latch. There's like a whole bunch of different things that people could do. So I'm like really trying to work out a good way to let this be flexible, but also, not result in another 50,000 lines of Pescetti code where I try to figure out what people meant. There's really nothing worse than like T-SQL trying to figure out what people meant. It's a terrible time. I've tried it. It's not good. It's not enjoyable. So this is gonna take some thinking. This one here is gonna take something. I would really have to sit down and work on work out how I want to do that. But one thing we can do is try to figure out a way to make this Azure SQL DB compatible, because this is actually a fairly easy one. If we go up way to the top, probably actually a little bit, not quite that far, but if we go up to the top, when I do some setup of like sort of initial things, what I have here is a session SQL, right? And this would be very easy to just change server to database if we're on Azure SQL DB, right? Be pretty easy to figure that out. The only trick is I don't have an Azure SQL DB handy to figure out how to do that. But thankfully, I have worked on other scripts where that is a thing. So we can go get some fun ideas from other places. So let's go to GitHub, and let's look back to a place where I've spent many hours looking through things. And let's go to a store procedure that I wrote, well, I mean, a lot of it from scratch, but there's some blitz cache stuff in here that couldn't be avoided. But let's see if we control an F for Azure. We can sort of see how some, like one way that we could check to see if we're using Azure SQL DB, and this might be something that's kind of messy, right? So if the server property addition is not equal to SQL Azure, then we'll go and see if we can grab tempdb log file sizes, right? And that's one way to see it, right? So let's see if there's any other highlighted stuff in here for Azure. I don't see any, but there's one thing that I noticed, right? Look at this. Is Azure DB equals 1? This is an interesting one, right? So what's this? If this equals SQL Azure, then we set this equal to 1. And then not in 5.8 or compatibility level. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, so there would be some extra stuff to think about here, wouldn't there? It wouldn't there. But for now, I think we can just try to figure out if we're in Azure SQL or not, right? So let's go over here and let's type a little bit. Well, finally, at long last, we'll type a little bit. So let's see, where should we drop this? We should figure out if we're up there early, and I think by early on we should do that right here, right? So like the nice thing about the way human events grab stuff to work on is I like one of the main tenets of like what I wanted to do was not write anything to a file, because those files get big. Those files don't delete, right? Like if you use extended events and you delete a file from the extended event, or if you just you go to set up an extended event, all right? Like you go management, extended events, and go to session, you say new session, and we're going to skip over all the kind of other setup stuff. But if you go to data storage and you say add target and you say event file or anything else that writes to disk, whether it's ETW or I forget the other one, but if you go to event file and data storage, and if you create this, right, even if you even in the GUI, if you say remove the event file, it doesn't delete anything from the disk. It doesn't delete any event files from the disks where you put them. They just stay there forever until you go and delete them. And likewise, if you drop an event session, it doesn't clean up after itself and delete the files. Why? I don't know. That's a pretty major failing to me. So I didn't want to do that. So all my event stuff goes to the ring buffer, because I don't want to mess with that. And the ring buffer works in Azure SQL DB, works just fine. So let's see here. Let's figure out what we can do. So we already have this check here that goes and looks at the product version to figure out if we're on SQL Server 2012 or not. All right. So we can just we can add on to this a little bit, right? So let's see here. Let's declare at Azure, and we'll call this a sysname. Actually, you know what? This is going to be a bit, because we don't really need this to be anything more than that. And we're going to default it to 0, because that seems like a worthwhile thing to do, right? And if we say select at Azure, we will have a 0 for us. Lucky for us. So let's do something that will actually make this functional, right? So we have Azure, the bit equals 0, and if I remember this correctly, convert and server property addition. Okay, so let's see here, because we already have this up here. So we'll say, and if we go look there, we need from over there. Good stuff. So now let's say select convert and varchar, but we need to do addition. All right, so I have developer edition. All right, but that's not going to be what we want. We need SQL Azure. So let's get this thing rocking. If let's see here. How do I want to do this? What's the smartest way to do this? Let's do, actually, you know what, we're going to change this a little bit. I don't want to do an if. We're going to say select equals case when and 1 else 0 end. I'm pretty sure that's how you write a case statement, right? Sometimes I forget. And let's say select at Azure now. Let's see what we come up with. Let's make sure, actually, you know what, let's take the value off here because I want to make sure that something gets set in here. All right, so that turns to 0. Now, unfortunately, like I don't have a way to unit test this, right? I could, like, you know, X this out and say case when SQL Azure equals SQL Azure, then 1 else 0 end. And that would give me a 1. But that's about the smartest unit test I have for this because I don't have Azure SQL. I'm not one of those super lucky MVPs who have free Azure bucks, unfortunately. But this should get us where we're going. And now down here, right? Now we have to make one other change. We don't want that in there because we don't want selecting that. But I do want to add some information about what we're doing here because that is important to me. So let's add a note and say let's try spelling something, right? No. Whew. Yeah. Strokes kicking in early. Checking to see where we're running this thing. And we will say over here, let's do a arrays error. So we print something out to ourselves. Actually, do I want to debug? No, we'll just say checking for Azure Cloud nonsense. And hopefully that works. One with no wait. All right, cool. So this should tell us if we're working up in Azure. But then the part of the query that I need to change is down here a little bit further. Right? So it's this thing. We got to figure out how we want to do this. So let's just break this up a little bit, and let's just have that turn out to an empty string here. And let's just say select at session. Why are you not auto-completing? What's wrong with you? Session. Damn it. SQL prompt has broken on me again. Equals case when at Azure equals 0, then Voon. I am the Voon of Grayskull. Let's see here. Then create. All right, that looks good so far. Let's line that up so it looks nice and pretty. I like that. I like the way that looks. I like the way that moves, but I don't like the way this is. Oh wait, yeah, I do like the way that was. Case when was fine. It was a then. It was a then that was bothering me. So let's scoot this over. Case when Azure equals 0, then create event session on server, blah, blah, blah. Else, actually, you know what? Because that's going to look funny. That's going to look funny when I create the event session. So I am going to have to back this up. Dynamic SQL is tough because you want it to print pretty, but you also want it to be kind of like readable in the code. And sometimes that is difficult. Case when else. Oops. Ha 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 ha. Create event session on database. And then we will say end here. All right, so that should do it. I think that's pretty doable, right? All right, so let's hit F5. Oh, it completed successfully. So now what we have to do is run this, and hopefully there will be no errors. But we have our new check here where we're checking for Azure Cloud nonsense. And then if we scroll down a little bit, oh, you know what? I didn't do this with debug, so it's not going to print that out, but we can change that real quick. Say debug equals 1, and this will show us how the event session gets set up. So notice that this, like, because I unindented things and pushed that dynamic SQL all the way over to the left, we got our dynamic SQL is still pretty printed here. So you can see I'm creating this event session with a GUID that I take all the dashes out of because I'm a decent human being. At least I try to be. But so this all prints out all nice and pretty. And if we were on Azure SQL DB, then we would get this command. This would say on database rather than on server, and that would hopefully allow people to create things. So I think that's pretty good, right? I think we did a pretty okay job there. Oh, that's not good though, right? That definitely was not matching. Gosh darn it! I'm gonna have to have a moderator to beat me. I think I'm gonna have to hire someone to beat me on here. That was beep, not beat. Sick bastards. See, there I go. I need someone to beat me. But this kind of like case expression thing to allow the dynamic SQL formatting to happen in like a nice and like sort of like a way that it still like maintains kind of code readability, but it's being able to print. There's something that I've had to do a few times in here. If we scroll down a little bit to where I don't know. It's down here somewhere. We have to get past some stuff. Let's see here. Where are the case expressions? Yeah, so there are a few of the times when, the case expressions, they're still, I think, pretty readable, but, the way that I set up things with the whens and the thens, that has to be a little bit offset so that everything kind of gets formatted nicely. Otherwise, it just sucks, right? Like, it sucks trying to read it, it sucks trying to do it, but it gets even worse at some point. I want to say it's when I'm creating tables. So if we scroll down a lot further, and I'm actually going to show you something else very funny that happens in this store procedure. But if we scroll down a whole bunch further, there's a whole section of code that is responsible for setting this thing up so that we can log data from the event sessions to permanent tables, and you can have that data around to analyze and do stuff with. But yeah, you can see like some of the case stuff in here, but that's not where it gets really bad. Where things get really bad is notice that at a certain point, things that have nice syntax highlighting no longer have nice syntax highlighting. Know that at some point here, all the text just goes black. And it's not because I like did something terrible to break it. I did what I thought would be like the reasonable and responsible thing to do, and what I did was I create a bunch of views to try to help prettify the data that I stick out that we put into the base tables. And I like if I wanted to put the view definitions inside of this stored procedure, like the create view statements, they would have added, I think, like 50,000 lines of code to this. I don't want you to have to deal with a 53,000 line stored procedure. So what I did is I changed all the view definitions to binary, and I convert them back over when I want to create them. So I convert them back to strings. But you can see at this line right here, after the parameterization event, this particular line of binary is, actually, this one down here, sorry, the one for queries. This one right here is about where things break. And this is a particularly long line of code. So at some point, if you have a really, really long line of code in a T-SQL script, you will lose code highlighting. So things just turn black after this. And if you want to talk about what's not fun, what's not fun, if we quote this out, I don't even know if that's going to happen. No, we just lose everything. It's just because that line is so long. It doesn't matter if it's quoted or not, I guess. But if writing code under that line is hellish. So there is no highlighting. There is no error stuff. It's just bad news. But there's a whole section in here where you're welcome. I wrote dynamic XML query for you, where you can see the case expressions and how they line up and how I have to push strange things over to the side and have things indented funny, so that when the code, like if you're debugging stuff and looking at things, or most likely when I'm debugging stuff and looking at things, I can see exactly what's going on. And this is this is, I mean, everyone says nightmare hellscape for all sorts of things, but I don't I think that I have a particularly strong case to say that my life is a nightmare hellscape of dynamic XML and broken SSMS formatting, because that's a big line. Like, I don't think I should own the phrase nightmare hellscape, but I think I have a pretty strong claim to it. That is the least fun thing in the world. So what we did here is, so like what's nice about, I mean, what I like about GitHub Desktop, because I am not a Git person, I'm not a command line person, I stink at this stuff. I have very many friends who have seen me try to work with computers in textual ways that have been embarrassed for me. But what I have here is, and why is that off? I'm gonna actually, maybe we'll look at that first. I don't like that else is off by a 1. That's sad and depressing. But what was a nice summary of the changes that we made. So, like, you know, we get the fact that we added this part in, and we get the fact that we, you know, deleted some stuff and changed some stuff around. But let's go back to that case expression. Let's make this a little bit easier on ourselves, and Control and F2 at Azure. It should be right about here. Oh, that's bizarre. So it's lined up well there. It's just not lined up well anywhere else. So let's do something that I treasure doing in these scripts. Let's look for funny spaces. So what we have to do is, there are a couple. Interesting. So what we have to do here is turn on the regex expressions, and we have to put a backslash T in there, and that'll look for tabs. So, like, one thing that I do a lot when I'm working with code in SSMS, especially when I have to work with stuff on multiple lines, is I mean, aside from like some copying and pasting, is like a lot of the times I'll, you know, use the Alt and Shift thing to highlight multiple lines. So, like, if I make a few enters in here, you can see that weird stuff happened, but I can then, you know, use Alt and Shift to highlight multiple lines. So I do that, and, you know, pasting code around in here, sometimes that ends up for some reason, sometimes that ends up sticking tabs rather than spaces in. So what I'm going to do is, because that happened a couple times with things that I was working on, there should be another one up here. Yeah, so like, where does this come from? I don't know. I've never hit the tab key. I don't understand why the tab key, why there are tabs in here. I had in my SQL settings, I go to options. I forget where it is in here. I'm not going to make you watch me dig through settings, but in there I have it set to spaces instead of tabs. Even in SQL prompt, if we go into options, and somewhere in like the styles thing, I have styles, edit formatting. Whatever, it's in here somewhere. Let's edit style. I don't know. Screw you. This is Jesus. All right. So, but I have tabs instead of spaces everywhere. I don't know why it shows up as, you know, not being in there. But yeah, exactly. Where did it come from? Where did it go? But now it's gone. It's been replaced. It is out of here. We can save that, and we can also make another note in here that we got rid. And now, of course, replacing that. Did that screw something up terribly? It did. So let's just put those spaces back in. So what I forgot to do is replace a tab with 4 spaces. So now we have another layer of fun troubleshooting to look at. Let's go see. Yeah, that lines that up. Case. Yep, there's another weird one. Okay, we got to fix that again. Let's go find you, Azure. Control and F. You are around here somewhere. Wait, I fixed you too. I hate everything. Just when you think you have things all nice and lined up, SQL Server goes and screws with you. This end is all off. Jeez Louise. This is why only professionals should be writing T-SQL. And by professionals, I mean definitely not me. Definitely not me. And are you lined up there? No, you are off by 1, 2. 50 demerits. You have to go do 80 push-ups now. All right, that looks good. Let's go check out the hub of gits and see if everything is lined up properly. Isn't that this is the kind of OCD stuff that I end up going through whenever I write things. Like most of the time when I'm working on something, like actually getting it written, very, very small percentage of what goes into it. A very, very large percentage is formatting and making sure that things look good to me. It's a huge part of it. It's terrible existence. A really terrible existence. All right. Let's look through here. Everything looks to be pretty lined up there, but I did spot something that I don't like. And I want to go back and fix it because, again, this is something that we need to get right. And I want to see, did I do it up here too? I did. Shame on me. Shame, shame, shame. Shame, shame, shame. Actually, I don't know if that would make a difference or not because I'm converting that and I'm converting that. So I don't think I need to do that, but I should do that here. Make sure that we are Unicode to Unicode there. Let's save that because we're converting the results of this to an varchar 128. So I just want to make sure that this here is also in varchar. I don't know if we actually need Unicode here. Probably not. But, you know, this is not data that we're storing anywhere, right? It's not going into a table, so it makes very, very little difference if we Unicode that or not. So let's that's all saved. Bang, bang, boom. That looks good. Let's see. What do we do here? Add Azure SQL DB compatibility. I probably spelled that right. Now let's see that this closes number 46. Commit to dev. Push that up. Now, we're going to finish this off after that origin pushes by creating a pull request. I know, it's amazing, right? It's great stuff. And we're going to call this 3 for, and who reviewed it? Let's see. Oh, I can request reviewers? No, I'm not going to request reviewers. I'm going to assign it to myself. And this is going to be SP thunderous _ human events. I don't have any projects or milestones because I'm a lone gunner. I'm a lone gunman. It's funnier on the X Files. Lone gun, like the lone gunman. Right? 3 of them. Lone gun. Shut up. So let's see here. Today we fixed some stuff. Thank you for witnessing that, Zane. May you also spray paint my teeth silver. Today we fixed some stuff. Let's go look at the issues that we tackled today. We improved case sensitivity. We fixed the AD account thing. That's kind of a weird, complicated issue. I'm not even sure like exactly what was going on with that, but you know, better safe than sorry. And then we also made Azure SQL DB compatible, and let's create a pull request. See, Zane, now I'm going to break production. Now it's going to break. All right. And we have no conflicts. Amazing. All right, let's merge that. Let's merge that in. Get in there, pal. All right. Now, I'm not going to delete this branch because it is my dev branch, and I do have strong feelings for it. But now, if we click back over to issues, we'll see that there's only one, and I'm going to live stream this one. I'm not sure when, but you know, I really do need to think long and hard about how I want to, you know. Thank you, Test, for grabbing popcorn. Unfortunately, you showed up at the very... Or, I don't know, maybe you grabbed the end. Maybe you've been here all along, and that's just the first thing you've said, Mr. or Mrs. Test. All right, anyway. All right, so we did this thing. This one is in the bag. Arthur's username. It's Thursday. Make the change before the weekend, buddy. Like, if I had a much bigger user, like, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. Tomorrow is my big day for making a big change, but I have to think about it. Hopefully, I have time to think about it because this is gonna be a tough one. Right? Like I talked about it a little bit earlier. I don't know if everyone was here for it, but there's. Do I also do the clippy voice? No, I don't do the clippy voice. My my voice does not meet that register. I cannot get up that high. I don't know what the highest note I can hit is, but I remember for 8th grade we of course had a graduation ceremony. We had back when graduation ceremonies were in person. Damn it. I feel so bad. My neighbor across the street this is her high school graduation. No, I don't want to hear anything. Don't get the wrong idea. She's nice. She babysits. It's nothing. I'm not saying that in a gross way, but it's her high school graduation this year, and she does not get a live in-person graduation. She got like an online graduation. That's that's sad. But I remember in 8th grade when we were having our graduation, the music teacher took all of us, brought people up individually and had them try to mimic notes that she was playing on the piano so she could figure out where to put them in the chorus. And she played a few notes and she's like, Eric, try to sing along with the notes I'm playing. And so I did. I did my best. I tried my best. And if you want to know where in the chorus I ended up that year, I played drums. Did not sing once, did not sing at all. I played drums. After like 3 notes, I played drums. So, no, I can't do the clippy voice because I cannot register those octaves. My voice stays right where it is, and there is not a lot of variation after that. I'm sad to say. So, I don't know. That wraps up, I think, the live coding. So I know that there's a little bit of a delay on this. So so before I go, I would like to, if there's anyone. I know, and Zane has gotten drunk with me, and my voice doesn't change then either. Of course, I was drinking a shitload of scotch that night, so it would be almost impossible. Like the only thing scotch does is make your voice worse, like deeper and growlier and. Rah, 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 rah. Order a pizza. Get your cousin an SSRS job. Silly things. But yeah, so if there is anything about this store procedure or about SQL in general that you have any interest in, or it was a good 6 to 8 hours. If you have any interest in or like questions about, I'll open things up and hang out for a little bit, and I can either give you a little bit more of a tour of the store procedure, or if you have any other questions, I'm cool with hanging out and asking stuff. It's just kind of a boring day here for me. I took this week off from client work because I wanted time to work on some presentation stuff and on the streaming stuff, and that's just like, it's impossible to get done when you're also juggling clients around. It's like I'm good when I can focus on something without having to worry about other weird deadlines and things like that. So I'll give it a few minutes for anyone to answer. Say yes or no or maybe. Or what I'll do is I'll count to 4,000, and if there are no chat messages with questions or comments or I don't know, directives, I guess. Directives maybe. Then I'll end this thing gracefully, gradually. What are my thoughts on shrinking databases? I actually had to do that recently. So recently I grabbed Brent's most recent copy of the the full size Stack Overflow database from like 2019, 1201 or something. And I wanted to make a version of it that had all of the sort of core tables in it. And I wanted to drop out a couple of the bigger tables that aren't really all that useful. So the two things that I got rid of were the post history table, because that is a stupid table. It's a very stupid table, and it is 200 gigs on its own. The post history table is almost just what it sounds like. It's like everything from the post table, right? Where the post table is every like question and answer and whatever else on the site. Except this is like an audit table where they store like edits and changes and things like that. Like if a question gets edited or deleted or brought back, like all that stuff is in there as like a weird paper trail for everything. And it, like I just can never think of a good use for it. Like there are a whole bunch of queries up on the Data Explorer for Stack Exchange that use it, but I'm just like, I look at it, I'm like, no, I'm sorry. That's not what I'm doing. So that drops 200 gigs off the size. And then there's another table called post links that I've just never found a good use for. And so I got rid of those. And what I ended up with was a database that, like, it was originally around 360 gigs. It ended up being around, I want to say like 150 or so gigs. But, you know, obviously having 200 something gigs of empty space is not a good time, right? And even like after me messing around with this, it has a good 18 gigs of space in it that I could probably get rid of. But so what I had to do was I had to shrink all the databases in a loop, and then to make sure that no one looked at the database later and said, Eric Darling has fragmented indexes. I decided to reorganize the indexes so that they would not be fragmented, and that no one could accuse me of partaking in such a terrible sin against SQL Server performance. I'm kidding. Yes, it is every stupid back and forth edit fight that's happened on the site. That table should just be nuked, should be out of existence. So I had to go through like a funny, shrink database, and don't tell anyone. I couldn't get the log file. Like the log file was like 99 point something % empty, but I couldn't get it to shrink. Like I restarted SQL Server and I couldn't get the log file to shrink. So I shut SQL Server down, deleted it, put the database in emergency mode, and rebuilt the log. And that's how I got such a small log file. So don't tell anyone, but that's what happened. What do I expect from SQL Server 2021? More bugs. Performance regressions, bugs, valiant efforts to fix things. I bet someone's going to have to do something about parameter sniffing sooner or later, and I bet that's going to cause some fun issues, because there's no easy solution to that does not add a lot of complexity to query plans, the plan cache, to the way things branch. There's just no solution that does that, unless we just all recompile all the time, which I'm not totally not in favor of. Sometimes it's easier to deal with the CPU from recompilations than it is to deal with parameter sniffing, and sometimes that's just the way it goes. Yes, Lee, I'm a human being too. I do have such problems. The nice thing is that I don't have such problems in production. I have very, very leisurely windows to shrink things down without having to worry about anything. And, so kind of lucky me, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. I am lucky. What are you gasping about, Arthur? Arthur, did you download the 50 gig Modern Warfare patch yet? You ready for that? Let's see. Wow, there is a question for us. Today I had a query which would run for 20 seconds, most of which was spent scanning clustered index. I run it again, it would run in 2 seconds. Yeah, so it just went into it just you read stuff from disk up into memory. That's the only thing behind it. It's sad. It's sad, but that's all it is. That the same thing will happen to me too. Like I can show you probably here. Right. Let's open up a new query on this full-size Stack Overflow database. Let's do dbcc drop clean buffers to make sure nothing's up in the buffers, and let's do select count big from posts. All right, and let's turn on the old query plan. We'll run that, and wait, why were you fast? Oh, because I have another index on there. Gosh darn it. Let's get rid of those pesky non-clustered indexes. There's always something, right? There we go. Now let's redrop clean buffers. Come on, Pally. Clean. Oh yeah, because I need a dbcc in front of that. dbcc. Drop clean buffers. F5. Nothing's up in there. All right, now this should work a lot better. Yeah, Zane, I don't know. Well, I mean, the original download was like 180 something gigs. This one was like 50. I have a 1 terabyte hard drive. 30% of it is Modern Warfare. It's crazy. It's like 300 gigs of Modern Warfare now. I don't know what. I don't get it. Why? Why do that to someone? Why? But yes, Lee. Seriously, and like this will run for just about a full minute, and a lot of the reason why it's particularly bad for the posts table here is because the post table has, if you go look, the post table has some unfortunateness in it. That is the body column, which is an varchar max, and there's a lot of data in here. Right, there's a lot of I want to say that at the site level they cap the questions and answers at 30,000 characters, but there's still a good chunk of data in here, right? And granted, you couldn't have an varchar 30,000 because that doesn't exist, so you have to make it a max, but they cap it. But if we go back and look here, look at the execution plan, I should be able to. Oh, you know what? I gotta zoom it over here. Where are you, degenerate? There we go. But yeah, if we zoom it in over here, you can see that we spent all. Oh, there we go. You are pink. We spent 58 seconds scanning the clustered index, right? But then if we run this again, it will be remarkably faster. I mean, I say remarkably faster, but it's still not very fast because the post table is still pretty gigantic, and I can't fit all of it in memory. Actually, maybe this won't be much faster. I don't know. It's been a while since I tried this. I always thought that would be runtime compared to CPU time, though. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Measurably faster, maybe. I don't know. The post table might have been. It might have been overkill to do this one, because we might have to read a whole bunch of the post table from disk into memory again anyway. So let's try it with a slightly smaller table, because that should still have the same effect. Let's get stuff out of there. Like even drop clean buffers will take a few seconds now, because the post table just clogs it up with so much stuff. The votes table is actually, you know what, comments is a little bit better, because comments has a slightly wider column in it. But part of the reason why I wanted to make this bigger database is to just make it a little bit more challenging to do query tuning and stuff on it. So yeah, this clustered index scan runs for about 8 seconds. If we look at the properties, we'll see that in the I/O statistics, we did a whole bunch of read aheads, which means we're not going to see physical reads, but we did do a whole bunch of read ahead. So we went ahead and read. We did the physical reads from disk, but if we run this a second time, this should be faster now. Who knows? Because you know what? With my luck, and I'm live streaming in front of people, it won't be. But yeah, so now it's about 2.8 seconds rather than 8 seconds. And if you want to see something even funnier, If you ever want to see something really funny, remember the original run of this was about 8 seconds. If we add a tab lock hint, this is usually faster too. I forget exactly what the timing is here. So, I don't know, like a second faster. But this is one of the reasons why, you know, a lot of the times people, like, you know, might complain that, like, oh, you know, I used no lock and it made things faster. Like, if you use if you skip like any of the locking stuff that happens behind the scenes, even when you read data, you need to there are locks that happen. But when we tell no lock or tab lock, we can get things to be a little bit faster than if we use, you know, the read committed locks that happen normally. So that was like 7.3 seconds, and then run this again. No reason to feel stupid. Databases are big, terrible, complicated places. Databases were a mistake, to be honest. Databases, you know, just shouldn't have been. So yeah, it's about a full second faster if we use a tab lock or a no lock hint reading from disk. Yay. Good times. Good times. That's why I always say, if you're testing a query, run it twice. Because a lot of the times people will be like, I have this query, it's always slow. And you're like, yeah, F5 again, it's fast. So a lot of the times, I mean, like, sure, like, I mean, there might be something you could do to, like, you know, use an index that's not the clustered index that might not be reading so much data from disk into memory. But, you know, if it's a, you know, query with no where clause, what are you going to do? You got to get that data from somewhere, right? Not like there's like, I mean, you could add a non-clustered index for it to use, but you know, that works a lot better when there's a where clause or something. But I don't know. I'm just carrying on now. You're welcome, Lee. You're welcome. All right, so it's been like an hour and a half. I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna go pretend to work and/or have a family. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'll probably pretend to work. But thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching me work on the old human events. And you know, now that I get one under the belt, you know, I'll probably do some more of these just to, what do you call it? Entertain you lovely folks. So